Dum, dum. That's fancy. Good morning, everybody. I think I've got my everything sorted out. Give me a shout if you can't hear me. I'm not lip syncing or anything. I'll just wait a few minutes until 9 o'clock and Sophia. And then we'll get going proper. Give people a couple of minutes to roll in case anyone's running late. Meantime, I'll get my different browsers and the like sorted out. All right, so let's get cracking, as they say. So welcome to genetics for the spring semester. It's going to be a pretty wild ride, so kind of strap in kind of thing. What I want to do today is really kind of go over, where you're going to find stuff, format, give you time to ask any questions about any of the, really anything, to be honest. And maybe we'll get time to get started on some of the material, but most likely we'll start that on Friday. So these sessions, I'm very much hoping they'll be kind of like a cross between a lecture and an office hour, right? So the aim is to cover the kind of the salient points, I guess, right? The most important, pardon me, points I want you to get from the material, right, which we'll be using PowerPoints to go through because we're doing this on a kind of a virtual format, but also give you the opportunity to ask questions, clarify points, maybe go a little bit on tangents in terms of, cool stuff, right, of which there is an entire, well, almost a universe of cool stuff out there pertaining to genetics, because genetics is awesome. Right. Hopefully you'll appreciate that more at the end of the semester than you might do right now. Right now, it just looks a little scary. But genetics is absolutely awesome, and it underlies everything biological, in my opinion. I always tell this joke. It's kind of a bit of a lame one, but I told this to one of the chemistry professors, Bob Shelton. Sheldon, can't remember his last name properly. And he was like, yeah, well, to be honest, chemistry underlies everything. And I was like, oh, well, fine. And then someone who teaches physics was within earshot. So, well, to be honest, physics underlies everything. And I was like, all right, yeah, whatever. So I'll stick to biology. And of that, at least, genetics underlies everything. I'm not pointing at people. I've just had an accident yesterday. So that's when my typing is going to be really slow as a result. So I'll try and do stuff speaking rather than typing in the chat box. Yeah, it was pretty stupid. Anyway, so yeah, so really anytime you want to ask a question about anything, ideally related to the course material, but or assignments or whatever, right? Just unmute. You can write it in the chat box, right? I've got use my finger to point again. Use the chat box if you wish. You can write a question to everybody so everybody can see it, which is, pretty neat for everybody else because those questions are really useful. Or if you want to address it just to me, say you want to ask me something specific to your own studies, you can use, there you go, click on the down arrow. You probably know this stuff better than I do. And just select me, right? And so those chats that are directed to me, like you could ask it to stay on after the Zoom to talk about something or whatever, those will be deleted from the record before this chat is posted. Okay, so I'm recording this Zoom meeting. I'll record all of them, and I obviously keep a copy of the chats. The chats will get uploaded to Blackboard. The Zooms will get uploaded. Let's see. Dum-ba-dum-ba-dum. All right, you don't need to see that just yet. The Zooms will get uploaded to here, right? So this is my YouTube channel, which is kind of funny in and of itself, right? Never thought I'd have one of those. And at the bottom, I'll send you the playlist directly once I've uploaded it. You'll find your channel, which will be the Genetics Spring Monday, Wednesday, Friday channel. And so all of these Zoom sessions get posted in that. So for whatever reason you're late, you can't make it, something else comes up that gets in the way of you attending Zoom, you can still see everything that we covered and talked about after the fact, right? So there's all the information will be available to you. The only thing you'll miss out on is the ability to ask questions to me during that Zoom, right? Which is a valuable part of this process, right? It's kind of one of the reasons why I didn't just give you a whole bunch of PowerPoints and said, there you go, genetics, go learn it. These Zoom sessions are really kind of one of the more important parts of this whole deal. Come on, you. All right, sorry, I got to stop that. There we go. Oh, okay. So everything should be available. Okay, so that's one thing. Flip it on its head and get that back again. Got to wait for that to disappear. Go away. Which one is it? Nope, nope, nope. There we go. All right, so all the rest of the course material is on obviously Blackboard, right? And one of the most important documents on here is the schedule, right? So the schedule can change. I've actually changed it at least twice. Most recent one was yesterday to rearrange a homework so it lined up better. But all the information you need about when assignments are due, exams, what we're going to be studying, stuff like that is in this document. So the one that's here now, this one is the most current one. If I upload a new one, I'll let you know, right? So that you can replace the one that you have with the new version, right? And yeah, this one's yours, right? So, pardon me. Essentially, the idea is to put everything here so I don't have to remember it. And you could ask me when the exams are, and I probably won't be able to tell you without looking at the schedule because I've memory of a fish, right? 3-second memory. So I write everything down. Oh, actually, that reminds me, something else I need to write down. Sorry, this is my way of remembering stuff. There you go. Someone got to pick up before going to lab. Yeah, so after this class, if you've got time, ideally within the next couple of days, put these deadlines in your calendar or your phone or whatever it is you use to keep track of stuff, right? So particularly homework deadlines, these are all due the midnight of the day that they're in. So midnight on 6th of February. This is due. You can't start it after the due date. So you want to get that started beforehand. You can go back to it at any point. So you could actually start that today if you wanted to. Maybe you want to wait like for us to like learn some stuff first. But you can have it open and go back to it. There's no, it's not timed. There's no forced completion. What else I was going to say? You do get multiple attempts. You get 2 attempts on most of them. One, you get 3 attempts, and the highest attempt is graded, right? So you get a couple of goes at each one. So anyway, this is a really important document. Make sure you have a copy of that and use it as well. And there you go. Here's the first exam, 15th of February, which is not very long away at all, actually. It will come around real quick. So anyway, so that's the schedule. The syllabus is there too. It's worth a read. You know, there's important stuff in there. But this is really the one that you need to pay good attention to, right? There's some readings for the textbooks. Textbooks is not part of your course fee anymore. The Jaguar 1 or Jaguar something, whatever it's called, has gone away after a very brief life. So I've put readings for the old edition, which is a 6th edition, and the 7th edition, which is the current version. They're kind of equivalent. There's not really much difference between the two, so you can save some money by getting the older one. Might be able to find it off of eBay or Craigslist or Amazon or something like that. And these are the readings for those particular books. So there's a lot of one thing, right? I always like to state to all my students, right? Whatever level that I'm teaching at, could be Gen Bio 1, could be, you know, developmental biology. Everybody learns differently. So I'm not going to tell you how you should learn. I'm just going to suggest there are lots of different ways of learning, right? And it's very important to find the way that works for you. And so for some people, textbooks are very, very valuable, right? You know, they've got a lot of information all in one place. That information is legit, right? You know, it's been gone over by, you know, several very clever people in their field, and it's all there, right? Other people, myself included, I struggle to read textbooks, you know, kind of start falling asleep after a few pages. Not because it's not interesting. It's just that, I don't know, just doesn't work for me that way. I tend to do a lot of bouncing around on the internet to find stuff. You know, so I'll start in one place and I'll, you know, find something interesting and discover I don't know something, I'll go somewhere else. You know, that kind of stuff. So whatever way you study best, you know, kind of work on that and refine that so you become really good at it. One thing that I will say about the textbooks, though, is that they have excellent problem and question sets at the end of each chapter, particularly this textbook. And so those question sets are very valuable in terms of finding out what you don't know. And this might sound like a little bit of a silly thing, but it's actually a really important thing in terms of success, right? Most students, yeah, generally speaking, find out what they don't know about a subject in an exam. And that's the very last place you want to find out how much you don't know, because you can't do anything about it, right? Because by that point, it's too late. You have to just make do with what you do know. And really, you don't want to leave it to that point, right? You want to find out what you don't know about something way ahead of time so that you can figure it out, right? You can go do some looking up, you can work on some understanding, work through some problems that are available, like give problems that I've given you, or just ask me questions about stuff like, you know, don't understand RNA transcription termination in bacteria. Like, what's going on? Like, there's all these different things, don't really get the whole principle, right? And so I can spend some time going, well, you know, it kind of works this way or this way, depending on, you know, the transcript and the gene in question, right? So try and find that stuff out ahead of time, and these textbooks are a good way of doing that. They're not the only way. Group working, which is obviously difficult in the current climate, is another good way of doing that. Quizzing people, you know, just kind of firing off questions like what, and see if you know the answer, right? Anyway, so that's that. And if anybody's got any questions, just pipe up. at any time. I really don't mind. Say, give me a break. Give me a chance to have some water. Okay, so that's that. Another important place to find stuff is here. There we go. So there's also more formats for the information that we'll be covering. There's all the PowerPoints that we'll be using are here. You can see a whole bunch of them lined up here. This is like the first section that we'll be studying. But they're all here, right? So what I would strongly recommend is that you download these somewhere that you can, or you can open them up in whatever device you're on, and just go through them before class, right? You know, kind of go click, click, click. Oh, click, click. Ah, you know, whatever expression you want to have. Before class, and so that you can at the very least get a sense of what we're going to be covering that day. Even better would be to do that and make notes of stuff that you don't know or don't understand, right? And then ask those questions in class if I don't answer them myself beforehand. So and PowerPoints are fairly dry. There's a lot of information in there. These PowerPoints are largely the basis for the exams, right? So only information which is found in the PowerPoints and maybe sometimes what we go over in Zoom sessions, but largely what is in the PowerPoints is the material that will be used that you'll be quizzed on, right, in the exams. Stuff that's in the textbook that isn't in the PowerPoints, not going to be in the exams, right? So other information or another way of accessing that information are these, I guess it's kind of like a podcast. Essentially, I took each of these PowerPoints, say this one, for example, right? And I just kind of went through it talking about each slide, kind of like a condensed lecture, I guess, you know, hitting the salient points. Again, I'm not going to read it because you can read just as well as I can. But I, you know, try and highlight which bits are, you know, really the ones that you should be focusing on, right? So those audio files, I guess one could call them, are you know, another way of getting that. So sorry, one thing you can do, particularly as I know a bunch of you have, you know, reasonable commutes or like to work or to school or whatever, is to just put those on in the radio or whatever to listen to, right? So you can kind of get oh, hey, no worries, Angelica. Give me a shout if you have any other problems, okay? Yeah, so you can listen to these ahead of time. You can listen to them while you actually go through the PowerPoints, if you wish. You know, maybe after we have this lecture, you can use them to go back through the PowerPoints and the material, see what you missed if you don't understand stuff. Oh yeah, genetics podcast. I'm not sure I put these out in public for the general population to listen to. I might need to polish them up a little bit first. But essentially the idea is that everybody studies differently, and I want to give you all the different ways that you can study so you can figure out what works best for you, right? Particularly because we're learning in such a kind of odd environment, right? Really, it's not what I would choose, and it's most likely not what a lot of you would choose either. All right, has anybody got any questions so far about the course material?
What are the invited lectures?
Oh, that's a really good point. Sorry, I didn't catch who that was.
Sophia.
Sophia. So the invited lectures are two things, actually. One is that they're job candidates who are coming for tenure track positions, either assistant or associate professors, and they will be giving their research talks in our class. I'd have to look up exactly what search is which for which day. Pardon me, because I'm on two different searches. So essentially, they serve the purpose of the faculty get to hear about their research and kind of judge uh, how cool it is and how good of a fit it would be and how well it fits in with our resources and the research of other faculty members. It also is a great way to get feedback from students who can judge the communication ability, right? So how much would you want to have this person as your professor teaching a particular course, right? And so we take that feedback and uh, use that to inform our decision. Usually, if all the students go, "Yay, he or she's great," then that's fine. But we're really interested in ones that go, you know, this guy sucks because he just clearly doesn't know who he's talking to, or stuff like that. So those are the invited lectures. They've kind of pushed the schedule around a little bit to make space for them. So some of the material will be a little bit compressed, but it's a really good opportunity for you as students to hear um, current research. It's also a really good opportunity for you to have a say in who you get to be taught by as well, which is also a good thing. The second good thing about those is those are the extra credit opportunities for this semester. There are no others. That is it. So let me get to the schedule because I can't remember how these line up. I just saw a chat. I'll get to you in just a second when I finish. Um, well, these are all before exam one. Okay, so uh, the way we'll be doing it is we'll give you, hopefully beforehand, a feedback form to fill out. I'm not sure whether these invited lectures will be in this Zoom meeting or in a separate one. I'm still waiting to hear about that from the people that are running those committees. Um, but essentially, you'll show up, you'll get a form to fill out. You send that form to someone. Again, don't know that yet because I haven't been told who that's going to go to. And that form counts as your attendance. And in not payment, then that's not quite the right word. To show our appreciation, there you go. You'll get 5% of your exam one grade on top of your exam one grade. So if you attend both of them, you'll get 10% of your exam one grade on top of your exam one grade. So if you get 75% in exam one, you'll get an extra 7.5% put on top of your exam grade. So that's a really, really cool boost for you lot and a valuable one to take advantage of. And it's also a way for us to get a lot of really good feedback from our student body about our candidates, which will then, we'll sift through them. We'll all read those feedback forms. There's no grading of the feedback forms. So if you don't have a whole lot to say because they're really good, that's fine, right? As long as you hand that form in, you get that extra credit. Let me just go and have a look at these chats. Let's make that a little bit bigger so I can see them more. Yeah, I think they'll be really good to go to. It's pretty cool actually to hear someone's research because that's stuff that isn't known yet, right? So you potentially will be hearing about discoveries that are being made that no one else has heard about yet because that work hasn't yet been published, right? So you'll really be kind of privileged to stuff which other people won't be, which is pretty cool. From Malika, I think it's pronounced. Correct me if I'm wrong. The PowerPoint will help to have in front of you, but it's a while since I've done them actually. To be honest, I think I made them for spring last year. Have a listen through one, right? See if it works for you just on its own. I'm no David Attenborough, even though that would be pretty awesome if I was. Um, but hopefully I'm not going to send you to sleep during them. But the idea is just to give you another kind of way of accessing that information. So give it a shot. Have a listen to it. If that works for you, that's great. If they don't, then don't worry about it. You're not going to lose out by not listening to them, right? It's just providing another way, if that works for you to be able to access that information, right? It's kind of more of a supplement than anything else. Question from Aaliyah. PowerPoints and lecture correlate with the exams? Yes, the exams. Let me get that back up. Let's change this for just a second, just so I don't do. All right, so obviously the invited lectures are not going to be on the exam because that would be kind of cruel. But exam one will be everything from what we study, probably starting Friday, because we may not have time for it today. Everything from what we study at the beginning of the course to the end of our lecture on meiosis, right? So that will be exam one. Exam two, oh, that didn't line up very well. Let me, there you go. That looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Exam two will be everything from non-Mendelian inheritance patterns all the way through to homologous recombination, which is a doozy, right? So these exams are not cumulative. They are purely on the material, pardon me, that we cover from the end of the last exam or the beginning of the course to the day of that exam, right? The course is split up into 4 chunks, basically, and each chunk has its own separate exam, right? So even though you will benefit from the knowledge that you gain earlier on in the course, you're not going to be tested explicitly on that. I've got some more questions in the chat, so give me just a moment and I'll get to you in a second. The homeworks are, as best as I can, and we'll get to the homeworks in a little bit, line up with, they will come after we've covered the material in the homeworks. There may be a case where that doesn't line up quite perfectly, the odd question or two, simply because it's just like scheduling can be a little awkward, right? To make sure that the homeworks kind of don't come, after the exam where the material is in them and, stuff like that. So sometimes they will be a little bit off, and my apologies for that. It's not intentional. It's just how it can be a little awkward to schedule them. But the intent is that they will cover the material that you've already covered. And also the homeworks, and I know there are some stuff in the chat box, and I'll get to that in just a moment because I want to kind of riff on this for a little bit. The homeworks are a really valuable way to find out what you don't know, right? That's that whole kind of point again. You not want to find out what you don't know before you need to know it. They're a good way to, in a way, force you to go back over the material that you've already covered, right? So they're a study aid as well. They're kind of like the questions you'll find in the back of the textbook, right? And the third way in which they're really important is they're a great way for you to level your grade up, right? This is a very hard course, right? Because this is where we get really properly serious about your biology major, right? And this is also where we lay the groundwork for some challenging upper division courses, right? So you need to really understand the material that we're going to cover to stand a chance of being successful in some of those courses, right? And so basically the C or better rate for this course is typically about 55%. So a small majority of you will go on to the next course, which is typically evolution, and a large minority will not. Not from any intent on my part. I want all of you to pass, but it is just a tough course. We cover a lot of material in a short period of time, and we cover it in some considerable depth as well, right? So these homeworks are in total, They're 20% of your whole course grade. Yeah, that's right. Kind of try to remember how things plan out, right? So if you do every one of these, right, and they're not designed to catch you out, they're designed to kind of help you study essentially and do well of them, you essentially have good chunk of 2 course grades already, right? And these will pull up your overall grade because the exams will be hard. I'll talk about the exams in a little bit, right? So that's why it's so important to stay on top of these and get them done, right? You do not want to miss a single one. If you do miss one by whatever reason, you forgot, you had a family emergency, whatever, let me know and I'll open it up for you again, right? They're not meant to be punitive, they're meant to help you. Now, before I keep chuntering on, let's see what people are asking. All right. How the exams do, oh, actually, let me go back to the very first one. This is a little bit twitchy and I'm using my left hand, so. For the first exam, what's the class average? I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, to be honest. I like to say probably typically around 65%, give or take. Maybe 65 to 75%. I'd have to go back and look through all the semesters that I've taught this to get a good feel for that. But yeah, it's tough. We'll talk about exams in a little bit. Oh, that's the next question. The exams will be online, so there will be a mix of multiple choice, multiple answer. Kind of trying to remember all the different types of questions, variety of questions that you'll find in online exams on Blackboard, right? Typically, they're you might be asked to calculate stuff. Like there's going to be questions on chi-square tests, linkage, obviously in different sections, right? So some of these, bunch of the questions will be just basic recall questions, which arguably you can just look those up on Google. That's to provide kind of like a floor to the grade, right? So those are what should be fairly straightforward questions to answer. That's typically about half the exam, maybe a little bit more. Then some of those questions will be things that you just have to work out, and others will be more complex questions where you really have to understand the process, right? And so what I'm stressed to all my students is that it's not enough just to be able to regurgitate facts, right? Because facts, they're not permanent, right? Kind of in one ear, out the other ear. You tend to forget a lot of that stuff kind of the moment you finish a course. But also in terms of value, they're pretty low down the chain, right? You're not going to be hired, in a research lab or a pharmaceutical lab or a doctor's office or whatever on your basis of recalling facts, right? Or get a position as a postdoc or master's degree or whatever, right? So what you're going to get your next job on after this, right? Because presumably you're doing this degree for, something further on, is your ability to work through problems, understand problems, and your general kind of scientific ability, I guess, right? And so that's what I want to see you being capable of, right? I want to be able to give you a particular set of facts, and I want you to know how to work through those to get the answer, right? So those will be some of the questions. That's typically where, sorry, I got like these little fruit flies flying around. That's where it being open book will not help you. And that's also where you need to do this work ahead of time, right? You need to start studying for your exams almost from Friday onwards, right? This isn't a course you'll be successful at if you leave it to the day before your exam. It's just too much to cram in your head. It won't stay there and you won't understand it, right? And we'll talk about this as we go through the course as well. I'll do my level best to help you with that. Alessandra, type of review. So we have, let's see, where'd that go? We have here it is. Oh yeah, exams and quizzes. These are where all your homeworks are. This is also where you will find the exams. They're actually down there, the old ones. I haven't gone through them yet because I don't know exactly what we'll be covering. Anything that you need for the exams, like a ta-da chi-square table, always super fun, right? Will be found here. And also the kind of master learning goals for this course are also found here. So this is kind of like a checklist that you can go through for that particular section and say, well, do I really understand this? Or if you don't, then that's something that you need to go through. For some of the sections, we have a catch up or review session, which is kind of like a buffer in case we take a little longer to go through the material, or if that's not needed, then a chance for just general question and answers. But we don't have that for everyone. And part of the reason is because we had to fit those invited lectures in somewhere. So unfortunately, that's kind of squeezed the schedule a little bit. But to be honest, I think the most valuable review you can do is with friends, right? Kind of quiz each other, go through stuff, make sure that you can answer questions and just basically, try and trip each other up. See if you can really dig into what you do and don't know. That's, I think, the most valuable type of review you can. Just kind of asking me questions and stuff helps, but it's not as valuable as doing it with other people in your class. So if as best as you can, even though this is like a real weird sort of format, try and see if other people are interested in doing those kind of study groups and make a habit of doing those every week. Let me see what other questions we got. The exam is timed. So you will have on the day of the exam, you'll have from the beginning of this class period to the end of the day, right? So 11:59 at night, midnight, essentially, to do that exam. It is timed. So once you start it, you have 1 hour and 15 minutes to finish it. So you can do it at any point. I'll actually be, pardon me, here on those exam days, or here, yeah, obviously I'm going to be here. This is where I live. I'll actually be in the Zoom session during those exam periods for at least half an hour, in case anyone has any questions about the exam or problems with the exam that I can answer directly. And then after that, I'll be, accessible by email and stuff if you have any issues. Though obviously I can't guarantee I'll be able to respond immediately. I might be having my lunch or something. So that's the general format, and those exams are timed. So although they are open book, very much so, do not rely on that to get you out of trouble, right? Because you just won't have time. One thing also it's really important to mention about the exams, and that should be in the instructions, is that you are given only one question at a time, and you cannot go back, right? So once you have clicked next, I guess, I'm not sure what the format looks like, on the exam, that's it. You can't go back and change that. And also the order of those questions is randomized. Sometimes even the order of the answers is randomized too. And that's really to prevent cheating, right? Which I hope no one is considering because it's just not a good idea for a lot of reasons. But be aware of that, right? So it's not like a normal exam where you can kind of go through and knock off all the straightforward questions, then go back to stuff, right? That will cause a lot of problems if you do that. It's a one and done. Do the question, move on. That question is done. You can't go back to it. Okay. So it's kind of like a weird way of doing things, and hopefully it will work out. It seems to have gone okay for the prior classes that I've done this format. From Angela Diaz about the extra credit lectures. Yes, they are in the schedule, which is posted on Blackboard. And if we're going to be using a different Zoom or WebEx link to access them, which I don't know for sure yet, I'll be giving you that as soon as possible. As soon as I know that information, I will pass it on, so that we can get that locked down. Question from Zusenna. I'm not quite sure how I pronounce that. Apologies if I got it wrong. You do not need to, it's not obligatory to purchase a textbook. We talked about that a little earlier. If you learn well with a textbook, or you want to make the most of the question sets at the end of the chapter for each section that we're covering, then you can buy one. But you can also get the 6th edition, which is should be a little cheaper online, rather than getting the brand new one. It's up to you, essentially, is the answer to that. So question about homework. So the aim is for the homeworks not to have any questions in there that we haven't already covered in class. Sometimes that might not work perfectly, but the aim is, generally speaking, for that to be the case. And the homeworks you'll find on your Blackboard. Give me just a moment. I'm trying to catch up all the questions. This is crazy. In the exams and quizzes section on Blackboard, and this is your actual Blackboard page for this course, right? So they're here. Technically, you can start all of them now if you wanted to. I wouldn't advise it, but they're all open. Oh yeah, I answered Jonathan's question already. Whew. How about that? Mad professor skills, huh? Number of questions in the exam, there should be between 30 and 40, Himina. Can't remember. It might vary. It's usually, I aim for minimum of 30, and then if I've got more things I want to ask about, I'll make up to 40. But sometimes I'm just kind of done. Can't think of any more good questions. So between 30 and 40. And again, about half of those, perhaps a bit more, are basic recall questions, and then, a smaller and smaller percentage are harder and harder questions. Alexa, what's your last name, Alexa? It's where do you go? Doria. I'm pretty sure, Alexa, you're in today. If your last name is shoot, I'd have to double check. Go and check the question about lab today. If it's Cielo, no, not that one. Yeah, if your last name is lower down the calendar than Cielo Garci, then you're attending lab today. If it's your Melissa Gonzalez, or higher in terms of alphabet, then you're attending my lab next week. Another question about, bloody hell, I'm going to run out of time here. Homework is not timed. Easy question. No online access to the book. It's old school style. This is for Angelica. You go to bookstore and buy it. There might be an online version. I have absolutely no idea. You're kind of on your own this semester. The whole Jaguar 1 thing is dead as a doornail. But yeah, if you have any other questions about the textbook, feel free to ask. But the 6th or the 7th edition of that textbook will be fine. Apologies if I mangle your names. It's a little hard to figure out how to pronounce them just from words online. Helene, the exams are open book. There's no lockdown browser that will be used. So they'll just open them up in I wouldn't do them on your phone, ideally. You want to make sure you have some good internet somewhere so you don't have internet issues. But yeah, they are open book, right? And as such, right, and this is an important point, they will be designed on the basis that they are open book and that you can access any source of information that you wish, right? So that's it doesn't actually help you a whole lot them being open book or open browser, to be honest. It will help you with some of the questions because you can just look them up on Google, but you don't have a huge bunch of time to answer all these questions. So you really need to know a lot of this stuff just in here. Okay. Oh yeah, thank you, Angelica. No participation grade for the Zoom meetings. They're really kind of here for your, no attendance either. They're really here for your benefit. If you can make the most of them, if you can't, then don't. They'll be posted on YouTube after the event, typically like the same afternoon, however long it takes to convert them. Quick question from Star. You'll get feedback on the exams after the due date of the exam has passed, in theory, right? Sometimes I have issues with this for who knows what reason. But oh, Delagaza, if you're A to G, it's today for the lab, or whatever the if it's G to Z, it's next week. Okay, so Delagaza, yeah, you're definitely today. There you go. That's easy because you're a D. Yeah, so there's no attendance and no grade, and that's actually we'll talk about it in lab better because there's stuff that's important to talk about in lab that's more specific to in-person classes. Yeah, so if you can't make the Zoom sessions, you know, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world either because you should be able to get access to all this material after the fact anyway. As I said, you're not going to benefit from being able to ask questions in the Zoom session, which is important, but you'll still be able to see what everybody else asked. All right. Whoa, caught up. Yay. Yeah, so some really good advice from people about the textbook. Save yourself some money, rent it, or get a secondhand copy of the 6th or the 7th edition. And really, I think there's some slightly more up-to-date stuff, like some of the more kind of current breaking research is in the 7th. But in terms of just what we'll be covering in the course, they're largely equivalent. To be honest, I was forced to move to the 7th edition by the bookstore because they have to be able to provide enough copies of the current edition if students want to buy them. And you know they couldn't do that for the older edition because it was going out of print. So either 6th or the 7th edition, maybe even older ones, but I don't have a copy of an older version to make sure that it covers what we need to cover. So you know, save yourself some money, or not even get one at all. It's totally up to you. It's really how much you'll use it. I'm not going to make that decision for you, but if you do want to use it, all the information's there. Jolene, um, I don't think it should be a problem at all having a different professor for your lab. I don't think you really get any choice in that, do you? No, you'll just be, the course material should be the same, give or take, in all the different sections of labs. And really, if there's any issues with the lab, you need to talk with your, with Mr. Penny about that. But yeah, you'll find all that information from him. Aaliyah, whoa. No, the homework will not be accessed through Pearson. The homework is on Blackboard. The feedback, you should get feedback on your homeworks again after the due date has passed if you want to figure out what you didn't get right. So all those boxes have been ticked so that you can figure out what you did and didn't get right on the homeworks. The final is not cumulative, right? So each of the 4 exams is on the 4 sections of the course, and they are not intentionally cumulative. Obviously, some information that you'll benefit from knowing some of the stuff that you learned early in the course later on in the course, right? But I'm not going to go back to stuff we covered earlier and use that in later exams, right? So they are non-cumulative exams. Oh, that's a cool question. I'm British. Rule Britannia, or something like that. Yeah, pretty plain vanilla British. Bit of Scottish, like quarter Scots, I think. Probably some Irish, who knows? Quarter German. Don't know what the rest is. Mongrel, I guess. Um, oh yeah, Azucena, I think. Yeah, if you're in my lab section, um, then look at the announcement on Blackboard for the lab. That will tell you whether you're attending today or next week. For Mr. Penny, I don't know how he's doing it. You'll need to talk with him. And I think that's it. Oh, Azucena. Cool. That was a good guess. I say even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. That's kind of my response to that. Cool. Okay, I think we're pretty much done. I don't think there's anything else. It was a bit of a wild ride. We'll talk a little bit about expectations and stuff on Friday, because I've got to jump in the car and drive into campus to do lab right now. Yeah, so oh yeah, lecture is recorded. It'll get posted later. I'll send you the link, Aaliyah. It'll be a YouTube link. Yeah, so any questions you have about any of this stuff, write them down, make a note of them, bring them with you on Friday to the Zoom session. I'll answer them then. And yeah, we'll talk about expectations then, and then we'll actually start covering the material. Right. All right. Whew. That was a wild ride. Okay. Thanks very much, everybody. I love all the questions, and thank you for all those who helped others as well. That's also super cool. And some of you I'll see in hour and 10 minutes. Others, I'll see you all on Friday. So stay safe, and I'll send an email around in a little bit with the links to the YouTube and the chat and stuff like that. All right, catch you later.